All right, we got a question from BTS Jin is my breakfast 69, and they ask, how much do grades matter? I'm stressing nonstop about getting a 4.0. So that is a very relatable question you're asking. I stressed so hard in college that I started to get gray hair. Like, you can't even see, I got little gray hairs coming out. And that was back in college I started to get that. And it freaked me out, but that's just how much I stressed about grades nonstop. So I get it. And I would say stop studying immediately. Grades do not matter half as much as we think they do. It's important to pass. But hey, C's get degrees, okay? I'm a perfect example of that. I had quite a few friends in college who had much higher GPAs than me, and they didn't get job offers out of college. They just didn't. And there are reasons for that, and those reasons had nothing to do with their GPA, where I had about below average GPA, and I got 5 offers out of college, 5 very good job offers. College and life do not work the way that we think they do. Every rule that you have in your head, every law and rule and boundary we feel like we have to follow, almost every single one of those can be broken anytime you want. Yeah, I'm looking out my window. The speed limit is a great example. That's a law. You shouldn't go higher than 35 miles per hour outside of my house here. There's a road, but people are speeding right now. They're braking. They just decided they're not going to follow that law. And for me, for example, I've seen that before where on a job application, it said only applicants with a 3.6 GPA and up. And yet I had a much, much lower GPA. And I decided to go and apply anyway. And would you know it, they decided to fly me out to Georgia with about 100 other applicants from every single top-ranking college in the country and decide who was going to get the 2 job positions that they wanted to fill. Competition was very fierce for that position. And I remember eventually passing the first interview, and I was like, yes. Then I got past the second interview, yes. Then I was about to meet with the boss, like the boss, the big man. And I get in his office, talking to him, and he looks at my resume. Before saying a word to me, he just starts reading my resume. And I'm like, oh, man, he's spending a lot of time on that resume. And he's looking at it, and then he looks at me and he says, you know this position had a cutoff of 3.6 as the GPA, right? And I said, yep. And he's like, you know your GPA is much lower than that, right? I'm not saying my GPA on purpose. It was really low. And I said, yeah. And he's like, so why are you here? Basically, like, why did we fly you out to Georgia all the way here on our dollar so that you could interview here? And I said, listen, I know that my GPA isn't as high as most of the people here, but I do know that I'd be the perfect person for this job, and here's why. And I gave him 3 solid reasons that I thought I would excel at that role, and then I gave him a reason that I didn't have a high GPA. I said, listen, that GPA is not representative of my intellectual capacity and capabilities. I'm a sharp, dedicated employee that can think outside the box. I'm not your typical guy, but I spent a lot of time doing extracurricular things in college and having different experiences instead of studying so that I could round myself off and bring more ideas to the table with whoever I end up working for. Boom! He gave me the offer right then and there over probably 100 other people that we were with. It was a huge group of people. I didn't even take the offer. I had so many offers, I ended up taking an even better offer up in New Jersey. But long story short, you really don't need to follow the rules that we think are out there. All these rules that are put on us, like, oh, you need to have this GPA for that or have this experience for that. It's kind of all up to you. You decide whatever you want to do. Your GPA is such a tiny, tiny little portion of your entire resume. When you print your resume out and you hand that to someone, your GPA is such a small portion, you don't even have to put that on there. It's optional. You could leave it off if you want to. There were times where I kept it on. There were times where I put it off. A lot of resume writers will advise you to keep it on there because if you don't, people might automatically assume that it's not high. But that's not a problem because a lot of the times you're talking to them face to face, especially in career job fairs and so on and so forth, where you can explain on the spot and have a good story pre-prepared so that you can explain why you're still the perfect candidate for the position. There's only one thing they care about when they're reading your resume. They want to know, are you going to do the job well? They don't care what grade you got in physics class 3 years ago in your first semester of college. They don't care about that. They want to know, are you going to get along with people and are you going to do the job well? And a lot of that comes from your experience. You know, if you come with no experience but a 4.0, they might choose someone with a much lower GPA but with much more experience. So I would say this, if you're not some genius who can just get a 4.0 without much effort, and you're just an average Joe like me, don't even try to get a 4.0. I think that might be a wasted effort. You could definitely invest some of that energy, maybe not all of it, but maybe half the time you would have been studying, do different things. That's my biggest piece of advice. You gotta do the things in college that you can't do the second you graduate, like join these extracurricular activities, the different clubs and professional organizations, opportunities to network. I was doing so many things my senior year, my grades were the last thing on my mind. I already knew I was gonna get offers. I just knew it wasn't gonna be because of my GPA. So I was doing so many other things. I was involved in professional organizations. I was involved in the religious organizations on campus. I also was in this app competition for home health care. We won internationally in IASC. You can look it up. We do so many cool things. And I was like, wow, I am so glad that I'm not killing myself right now trying to make sure I get a perfect score on all the final exams, because what a waste that would have been. I would have missed all those opportunities with professional organizations and with these really cool tech teams I got involved in. You can do whatever you want in college. There's so many opportunities, and the second you graduate, those are gone. As an alumni, you can't just roll in and start doing all these things with the students. It's made for students. But I would say, hey, C's get degrees and focus on all the other opportunities you have, because the second you graduate, those are going to be gone, and that's what you'll regret. Not getting a 3.3 instead of a 3.1 or even a 2.9. Forget it. Just apply to everything, roll in like you're a boss, have a good story to explain where you're at, and you'll be golden. All right, well, that's all I have to say. So you guys take it easy. Peace out.